The topic that I have selected for this research has not been studied in depth because I have prepared it for this conference, and I'm not a music specialist or a folklorist, but and probably they would not agree with me, but I am open for criticism as well. Folk songs have been reliable proof of the millennial Armenian musical culture. They reflect the historical path and heroism of the people. Their bold spirit, freedom, and desires as a result of the rapid growth of medieval Armenian cities. New forms of music appeared, but the interest in folklore and folk music intensified, especially in the second half of the 19th century when it began with the efforts of devoted ethnographers. The process of registering and studying our ethnographic heritage, including musical material as well. Many people began to investigate villages since it represented unmixed culture and lifestyle. Traditional music is to be divided into three main branches: rural, urban folklore, and Gusan Troubadour art. The history of publication of Armenian folk songs is memorable, especially with the appreciation of songs of folk culture and rural folklore. Komitas, the forefather of the Armenian folk music, Mondrate. Komitas considered folk music as an original and branch of folklore. He describes a gift of songwriter in the bosom of natural as a natural gift of villagers who learn from nature. In this musical field, Dostoevsky, for example, felt an aesthetic aversion toward urban romance and described it with such derogatory terms as traveler music and fake folklore. Komitas skeptically denied the existence of urban folklore. He, in one of the letters addressed to Chopanian, he noticed that Aryan folk songs with their stylistic purity were preserved in the villages and distorted in the cities. The gift of composing song is a natural gift for a peasant. Every good or bad knows how to play a sing. Similar to the considerable number of works by Armenian composers, Komitas music was also based on the samples of urban musical folklore, just some elements of it. Roman Melikian was the first Armenian musician to appreciate one of the unique phenomena of urban music, life, song romance, bringing it to the high level of artistic creation. He was the creator of independent genre of Armenian classical romance, namely national chamber vocal music. He writes about us to Hovanesian, and each example of a citizen goes through a special way of creation and dissemination of folklore. Text folk melody, authors text folk melody, authors word music, same song, difference with rural urban parallels, popularization of song by famous author, folk versions of words with change of theme, urban songs with rural folklore text, words with different melody, content, themes, etc. Such conception is the result of a detailed examination of the text melody combination of the field songs as different manifestations of the combination or not. So, for example, the author's work is popularized with new versions such as the product of Isaacian's words and Komitas music, the lyrical love song Aref Ichaf, created in the musical style of the city, which also spread in the folk version with changed words. It does not have the same poetic mastery and the stamp of Isaacian's genius, but it has lived in a new national liberation tone. In other words, the last quarter of Isaacian's poems was a creative pillar for the people's poet, for an unknown folk poet. This phenomenon is also typical for the urban music of our poetic means. Isaacian and says that my heart is filled with emotions on September 27, 1937, from the prison that when I heard your music, the rhythm and your lyrics, my heart was filled with emotions. Sometimes the phenomenon is also typical for the urban music of other people when poetic means of expression language are simplified. Even orthographic and grammatical errors are made to adapt and texts of literary origin are adapted to the tastes of general public. The works of art which are created in the spirit and style of folk songs are conveyed orally from generation to generation and differentiated. Thus, as a professional song is borrowed into ways in its entirety, that is, by choosing both the melody and the words suitable for the melody. A well-known poem by a famous author, the simultaneous coexistence of the rural urban version of the same song as well as the two quarters of the verse from Avetis Aronian's prose drama Valley of Tears, which are supposedly folk, existed in urban and rural versions. This version of the city song is attributed to the Vaspurakan region, and obviously the older one, which is adjacent to the rural branch with melodic volume and stylistic features, which is from Surmalu version. Urban songs with rural folk texts such as "Don't I Will Die in the Wind of the Mountains" were also created. Thus, the Armenian urban music folklore created with folk or authorial authors' poetic texts and melodies express the characters of the urban environment and developed within the city. As Atayan notices, different intonation, stylistic directions are noticeable in urban folklore, which gives a unique diversity to that music. According to him, the main roots of the Armenian urban musical folklore are the rural songs themselves with different genres and genres, the medieval urban folk musical cultural tradition, the song art, and the Gusan Ashur music, which is in turn are closely related to both rural and urban folklore with the elements of Muhammad. During the formation of the Armenian urban music folklore, the international influences of the other nations folk songs also gained significance, so-called Europeans. Being in wide contact with the musical cultures of other nations, Armenian urban music has been regularly updated and significantly transformed. That here I should cut short because it is an extensive. I would like to compare our folks with Portuguese fado. You know, originally romance meant work in Spanish, and it is about the territory of Spain, a former Roman province, the borders of which were more extensive, so romance was a common phenomenon in the Pyrenees. And then it spread widely and was borrowed by other European people. One of the unique representations of urban romance is famous fado, which originated in the 1920s, living in the Coimbra branches of Lisbon. Fado is descended from medieval Pyrenean, Spanish-Portuguese romances, Portuguese folk quarters. According to research on this genre of folklore song, Fado was originally a port tavern spontaneous music that penetrated the aristocratic environment of the halls in the second half of the 19th century, acquiring new qualities and logic of copyright. The melodies did not stand out in variety. The words of the songs often changed from ready-made during the performance. Depending on the situation or the inspiration, the fanatics could spice up the already known material with their taste and add new elements. One of the hallmarks of Fado is simple melody. There are certain patterns and templates that are the basis of new compositions, the so-called counterfactor is used to create the text of a new song with an existing motif. Fado is performed with Portuguese guitar, lyrical solo guitar accompaniment. There's an option. This is to create a new song. Many specialists say that urban romance entered into Armenian reality with guitar and mandolin. So the spirit of guitar and mandolin was combined with the spirit of European Russian domestic saloon romances used as accompanying instruments. Portuguese and Armenian urban musical folklore is comparable with certain motif commonalities. Particularly, Fado's very common parent-son antagonism in Armenian urban music culture. In Portuguese songs, parents can be the cause of young people's unhappiness and even death. In both the Lesbo and Coimbrian fados, the theme of love is inextricably intertwined with that of fate, death, suffering, and pain. In Armenian songs too, parents often hinder the meeting and unity of lovers. For example, in the folk version of the song Romance Moonlight Night, if fasting is considered an obstacle to marriage, then in the version written and developed by Tigranian parents oppose the union of lovers. It is believed that the key characteristics of the romance song genre is certain thematic orientation. According to Petrovsky, the social, psychological, aesthetic function of romance is to be a love song. All the other so-called additional topics, such as life, death, eternity, time, destiny, fate, skepticism, are closely related to this main topic. Urban romance is generally fitted with the following definitions: unanswered or unattainable love, a story of lost love, suffering, or an accident from life, a recollection of an experienced person with emotional tension, not the tension that the most common in Armenian urban folk music is the motif of disappointed lover, an answered love that causes suffering. Love is also the main theme of Fado. Love, loss of a loved one, love triangle, jealousy, motherly love, mother and son, suffering, love for hometown, etc. In Fado, as in Armenian urban songs, the tendency of localization, the praise of the important places, cities, and reflections of everyday and cultural environments are quite natural. The Portuguese urban romance is characterized by description of Lisbon streets, churches, bridges, and fountains, and the Romance past times, the ancient taverns decorated with the laurels of Fado are sung in detail where a beggar or a gentleman were visiting to listen to music. The Armenian Kinetun is also noteworthy where the sufferings, feelings of lost love are not combined with the phenomenon of nature, intertwined with nature, which is typically of mostly rural folk songs, but take place in the way to the pub, as the pub is a symbol of urban life. And domestic grief is considered a means of temporary forgetting by a man who has lost a loved one. The image and memory of the city can be found not only in the city but also in other folk and lyrical songs where besides the praises of the praised women, the famous place of historical Armenia, as well as foreign countries and cities such as Van, Amit, Aniazum, etc., are allegorical descriptions. There are several motifs in the Armenian Portuguese to urban renaissances which have a certain allegorical meaning. These lines of the song often carry a very definite semantic charge, acting as allegorical expression of the delicate mental states of love. Armenian Portuguese romance systems are also comparable. One of the most common symbols in fathers is the rose. Two people's common symbol in romance are the garden, the sun, the moon, and one is elements in ancient mythological thought, which is associated with traditional Portuguese folklore. Moreover, according to one of the famous authors of the song, Jose Antonio Fado was born from a rose in beautiful Portugal, which is the result of divine creation. According to Fado's allegory, the white rose is the symbol of innocent girl, and the red one is the symbol of her lover. The rose is most often found in early Fado as the connection of the old Fado was closer to traditional folklore. I cannot live without you, and you cannot live without me. Come closer, a blossoming white rose. In Armenian urban romances, the rose is again a common floral symbol. Both in traditional folklore and in Armenian urban romances, the rose symbolizes feminine beauty and charm. What kind of mother brood you pamper yourself in the cradle? You are a child of Armenian open rose in the garden, moonlight nights, the name of the song. Preliminary evidence for the ancient mythological specimens of depicting plants as the expression of the human physical and spiritual world can be found in rituals, as in case of this line from Sionic. So, preliminary evidence for the ancient mythological expressive means of depicting plants as the expression of the human physical and spiritual world can be found in rituals in the White Water, and we spoke about this in the traditional Armenian folklore colors. White, green, red, blue, yellow are the means of depicting a woman. In lyrical songs, white, yellow, and red are common, which is related to the ancient folk linguistic thinking. These three colors also have symbolic significance in Armenian Portuguese urban songs. In Armenian myths, the rose and violet are sisters and brother who always miss each other. The most popular symbols of medieval Armenian are the rose and the nightingale. The prevailing view is that the rose symbolizes Christ as well. The allegory of rose and nightingale has spread in the medieval literature of various peoples from the East and has become one of the most popular topics in the Armenian folklore. The variety of interactions significantly complicates the examination and development of urban and domestic romance genres. And by the way, it doesn't have the same meaning in China, because in China, for example, a white rose is the symbol of prosperity, and the yellow one is the symbol of Beijing. The variety of interactions significantly complicates the examination of the development of urban and domestic romance genre. But it is clear that urban romance is still a musical basis and lender to a number of musical genres. Authors, rabbies, and chanson romance melodies and lyrics get fresh musical nuances and colors but remain recognizable. Thus, with certain transformations and modern musical instruments, everyday romances continue to remain in the realm of modern music culture. It is specifically noteworthy that there is also some tendency to visualize the folk text in clips, in musical clips, and this social cognitive approach, which was created under the great influence of cyber development and development of ICT, and it leads to some transformations. The world has changed, and this fragmented or clip thinking is taking this place. And in the oral tradition, which is related to the lyrics, there are also some illusion of immediate and direct interaction. However, it doesn't transform, the lyrics do not transform this fully to the addressee unless they're accompanied by music. And they create also a possibility for more popularizing well-known folk songs and their text. So during this interaction, sometimes we have some complicated synthetic phenomena where we have, let's say, a combination of the text, music, and uh, different uh, pictures or footages. And this, and going on the internet, they are also going beyond the boundaries of the city.